Hey everybody, it's Cocktails and Coaching, and we're a few minutes early right now. I'm bringing in my co-host, Jen Dinatale. Get her in here. Here she comes. Oops. Approve. We are adding. Connecting. Woohoo! Like a well-oiled machine we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. You transitioned to home, didn't you?
Yeah, I tried to stay dressed. It wasn't happening.
No, I understand. It's okay. There's nothing about Cocktails and Coaching that says you have to stay dressed.
Oh, thank God. I knew I
Not to
found
mention
my people.
it's 8 p.m. back there. Like if I was back there, it would be hard for
So
me
it's
to even stay awake long enough for Cocktails and Coaching.
it's
What?
officially half an hour past my bedtime.
Right. I know. I hear you, and I appreciate you staying up. Oh, here's Amy. Hey, Amy. Good to see you tonight. We'll give everybody a few minutes to
Hey,
get
Amy.
on. And
Okay.
Amy, where are you from? And do you want to tell what you're drinking? What are you drinking, Jen?
Club and Tito's.
I was going to say, like,
Club
what?
soda.
Don't disappoint me. Okay, Club and Tito's. Okay,
My
thank you.
hair looks so pretty.
It does.
It's a school night. You have to
Yeah, no,
keep that in mind.
I'm totally with you. Oh, and here's Joyce Fosick. So this is so funny. So Joyce was with us last week. Joyce and I met what feels like 100 years ago to me, but it was like in 2000 and about 10 probably when I worked at PAR, and she was in a leadership program. I led this year-long leadership program up there, and so we met that way. So I think it's just fun when except for Facebook, like we would have never stayed in touch, you know? So I love that about Facebook. It lets you stay connected to people.
Well,
What?
it dials back to the conversation about technology, and is it a blessing or a curse, or maybe a
Yes,
little of both?
absolutely. I think it's definitely can be both. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and here comes Nilla. She's coming in.
Hey,
Yay!
Noah.
So Nilla, of course, and I think about changing the name. I thought Cocktails and Coaching was pretty damn cute. Okay. I thought that was a good name. But Nilla likes talking and drinking. She thinks that's what we should call it, is talking and drinking. Yeah.
Talking
Which,
and drinking.
has a little ring to it as well.
Well, it definitely is a ring. And there are if you search cocktails and coaching, there are other
I see. Do you
hits
think
for that.
drinking and talking would give us better SEO?
It might. Because, for all my
Yeah.
tech savviness. So I'm maybe not the person to ask
It's
that
so
question,
funny
though.
because I have so many people tell me how tech savvy they think I am because I just, I know shit. And it's just so funny to me because it's not like I've ever, I've had no real training. It's just, but I've always been, you can relate to this in real estate. Real estate's always been a pretty technology forward industry. Even though by the same token, when you're inside the real estate industry, it's like everybody went, kicking and screaming.
Oh,
Well, I didn't want to name any names.
I'm still lobbying for
Right.
carbon copies. Right. I'm gonna keep the pink one. You're gonna get the yellow one.
We turned the white copy into the office.
That's correct. Here's the green sheet. Yeah. Huge fan.
But there's so much data in real estate. It was an industry that very quickly, went online and jumped on and
everybody's
that
paperless.
internet thing, that Al Gore made.
Well, he did discover it.
Oh, well, ladies, I am so happy to have you guys here and so happy to have my co-host here, Jen. Okay. Oh, so Amy's in Reading. I'm sorry, my comments didn't scroll. And then, of course, we know Nilla is in Perkasie or Perkasie, as some people incorrectly say. And then Joyce, you're in Montgomery County somewhere, but I don't know where exactly in Montgomery County, or at least you used to be in Montgomery County, but I think you still are. What's everybody drinking tonight? I'm having here, let's see. I'm having a beautiful Cosmo in a beautiful glass.
Your favorite.
In my beautiful 5, almost 6-year-old granddaughter's art room. Hence the painting behind me.
Oh.
Yeah, you know, there's just nothing like a good Cosmo. Yeah,
on a school
night. On a school night. Anyway, you know, when we in December we'll start drinking poinsettias. That's something Nilla turned me on to. Actually, her husband Chris, and it's just some sort of gorgeous vodka cranberry, but something else is in there. Anyway, very tasty. Anyway, enough about the drinking. Let's get to the real talking. So I wanted, actually, with Nilla's good suggestion to have you, Jen, as my co-host. Okay, she's drinking wine. Oh, it's raining.
Thanks, Nilla. Yeah, it's pouring,
you know,
actually.
It's let's see, sunny and 75. Oh yeah, that's what it is every day here is sunny and there's a few clouds actually. But anyway, so I am sorry that it's raining there, or I don't know, maybe it feels good. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. It's a lot greener in Pennsylvania. You know, Southern California, because of the lack of rain, most of California is very brown. You know, you think of palm trees, which there are, and that's awesome. But there is a lot of brownness because of the lack of rain here. So, you know, rain.
But that is the color my skin would be. It would be brown.
Oops.
Because I would be tan.
Fell over. It's always a trick to keep my phone propped up. Okay, Joyce, more specifically, is in Marlboro Township near Green Lane. Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah,
I know where that is.
Yeah. And Amy's having 16 ounces of water. Okay, way to go, Amy. I always say there's no peer pressure to drink on Cocktails and Coaching. Some nights I'm the only one drinking. Everybody else is like, oh, I have sparkling water, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, so Jen and I met about 5.5 years ago, or was it 4.5? I came in April anyway to manage a real estate office in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Reading, north of Philly. And Jen was my top producer in my office. And so that's how our relationship began. And then she left me. And had the nerve to go open her own company. No, I was very happy for her and very sad for myself. Of course, then I left the company too. So then who cares?
The company, the state, the country. I can't even prove you're in America right
and
now.
I'm never gone forever, you know. I'm always like, you know, the bad penny that keeps turning up. So you never know when I might be on your front porch. Yeah.
It's a true story.
So I always really respected where Jen was coming from as an agent. Like, I've been in the business long enough that by the time I got to that office, you know, and Joyce, you know this because you're in real estate, you know, it doesn't take very long before you know whether somebody, is the real deal. And I always knew that, you know, Jen was. So the friendship started, and then, you know, it was really easier to be friends after you left, I think, because we weren't working, you know, weren't working together. And
right.
So I think that, you know, is part of where the friendship side of it also really blossomed. But one of the things that I love about Jen the most is that you're so honest. You're so authentic. Like, I think you're a person that, to me, and you may not, I don't know that you feel this way, but to me, you just can't be anybody but exactly yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of exhausting. And it doesn't often work in my favor, but I mean, it just is what it is.
And I love that about you.
I'm okay with being unpopular. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
But it is,
you know,
but we're joking about that because you're also very popular. Like people love you.
With
Yeah.
some people,
And it's
sure.
true. I think for any of us who are really authentic, there's a certain amount of haters that are around too, because some people don't know how to take that.
Well, because you're not gonna be for everyone,
Yeah.
no matter who you are. And the people that do really very genuinely try to be for everyone, those are the people that I 100% don't like at all. At
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're, trying to be something for someone. And that we are not.
Fair.
Unapologetically authentic is what I like to say. So, but what really what got Nilla started with talking about me having you as a co-host, which I loved because I hadn't thought about this. You had told me the story years ago about early on in your business when you were betrayed, by a partner. Took a lot of, I'll let you tell the story, but I always think in life, because this is a story about being an entrepreneur and being betrayed by somebody in business, but I think that we've all been betrayed, by somebody
Oh,
in love, in
absolutely.
life, and somewhere. And it can be a really hard thing to come back from, I think. And so I love, the way you did it, and I love your story of it. And I wanted you to be able to share that with everybody and for everybody to hear it, in your own words instead of me just talking about it. So why don't you tell the story?
Well, I do foreclosure properties mostly, and oftentimes people leave items behind, and most of the banks will do like an eviction on that property. There was a very expensive piece of equipment that was being evicted from a garage in a house. She knew it was there, and she and her
Mm.
boyfriend stole it. And then the cops, and he was dumb enough to drop his business card while they were stealing it.
So that gets him on stupid
Anyway,
crooks
long
too.
story short, she not only stole this thing, and then of course I would not bail him out, and I would not testify for
Mm.
them. And so she stole a lot of money from me. And
Because she had
she
access to your bank accounts.
had
Yeah.
access to everything.
So that was the level
And
sorry to
she,
interrupt, but I think this is important because
yep.
that to me, because you're not a foolish person at all.
No, but I am lazy in a lot
But
of ways.
somehow, so do you think it was laziness, or did you also just trust her enough that this was somebody you're like, yeah, I trust her to have access to my bank accounts?
That I initially looked at it as trust, and then in hindsight, I looked at it as a little bit of
Mm.
ego. I mean, there was trust, but there's ego involved. So, one of the very first things you have to do in this sort of scenario in order to come back from it is you have to take some ownership of your role in that betrayal. It didn't just
Right.
happen, unless you're an absolute idiot,
Right.
which I'm not. It didn't just happen because I,
Right.
blinked. I had some ownership there. And one of those things was she would never do that to me. Even though I knew that this person had a history of fucking over other
Mm.
people. Maybe not to this extent, but when I hired her, so many people were like, I mean, she stole $200 from me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm making that up. But it was scenarios like that. And I'd heard them periodically here and there. But in my head, I'm going, she would never do that to me. She would never steal from me. So, it was a little
Yeah.
bit of both. It was a little bit of
Yeah.
both. But beyond that, she had set things up over the years to really, really make me look
Mm.
bad. And I watched it
Yeah.
happen. And, she smeared me to everyone. And then, of course, she went to my enemies
Right.
first to smear me so that those enemies could smear me further.
And this is a small town. I mean, you were,
Mhm. I know everybody
yeah.
in this business.
Yeah.
Everyone. So yeah, it was a horrible time. I stopped eating. I mean,
That would be, folks, that would be like me.
I
That would be
stopped
like if
eating.
I stop eating because Jen and I love food.
I literally, oh, I love food. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep.
Mm,
I couldn't
mm-hmm.
nothing. And everything, everywhere I turned, it was like, I was getting the side eye from people. My broker at the time said to me, "Prove your innocence."
Ooh. I
uh, be-
wasn't the
because
broker,
she
by
had
the
turned
way. That wasn't
everything.
me.
No, you were not the broker. That was before you. And I looked at him and I said, "Isn't that, I don't know, back backwards? I mean, how do I prove my innocence to you? I'm not really," because she had spread so many horrible things. And he said, "Show me that you made your mortgage payment." And I said,
Really?
"Okay." And I did. Yeah, it was a very horrible, horrible
Uh,
time. But yeah. So, but for however bad it felt, it to me it felt worse being a victim. I absolutely hate being a
mm-hmm.
victim. I hate it. I will be anything
Mm-hmm.
but that, because that's a loss of control, and I'm not okay with
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to come out of that is to own your part,
Yeah.
and then you kind of work forward from
Yeah.
there.
Now, I think that you will agree with this, but please, tell me if you don't. Owning your part doesn't mean you take any responsibility for what the other person has done or diminish what the other person has done. And probably, did you take action against her in some way? Was there something you could do?
No, I was I was so afraid of my own shadow at that point, because of how heavily
Mm-hmm.
hit between the theft and the
Mm-hmm.
slander and the lies and the rumors. And so I just kind of wanted to
Okay.
disappear. I thought, if I just keep myself out of the
Yeah.
light, all of this will
Uh-huh.
go away. And it
Yeah.
does go away. It does go away, but you don't know who's your friend and who's your enemy. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you've been betrayed like that, you don't trust anybody. And you don't to me it was, and I'm still like that with things. I would rather lay low than bring any more attention to
Uh-huh.
myself. But I'll tell you what, it opened my eyes, with we assume as a society, and it happens every day on TV, when somebody's accused of a
Yeah.
crime, immediately 98% of the people are like, "Well,
Right.
he did it." So now, and I was the same way, and now I'm the person going, "Well, show me
Yeah.
that he did it,"
Yeah.
because I've been accused of things that I didn't do. And so I get what that feels
Right.
like now. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, if you could learn something, I guess that's one
Yeah.
thing to learn.
Right. So tell me, and actually, well, wait a minute. Before I ask that next question, let me stay with what you just said, because I think that we all obviously interpret things that are happening to us, through our own lens, based on a million things that have happened to us in our lives. And then we tell stories about what happened to us, based largely, on that lens, that baggage, and those filters. And so I think it's really interesting that you're saying you came out of it with this new appreciation for, just because somebody says somebody did it doesn't mean they don't. You could have turned that completely the opposite, to a resentment, for whatever, being accused, or for being, and I think that that's really important, because whether it's if anybody saw my Facebook post today, because I think I only did one on Instagram, it was this, the question why, and how why is super empowering when we're talking about our purpose or our mission, or those kind of things. What's your
Hmm.
why? Why do you do real estate? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
run? Jen's a big runner, da da da. But it's a terrible, disempowering question when you're struggling. Why did this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like why do so many things that I try fail? Why do, and there's always that story that you read where someone has, 20 things go wrong and one thing go right, and all they remember is like, yes, and this thing went right, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
defines them. And so that you took that in both. I love this part about owning your own part. Like where were we blind to what we could have seen, or our egos got in the way and said, oh, wouldn't happen to me, that whatever. And then how do we kind of turn that, and what do we make it mean? What do we make it mean when it's over? Because you could have just wallowed in what it means is I suck at, my judgment of other people is really bad. I make bad choices with who I partner with. Whatever. You could have had a dozen other negative stories, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not what you chose.
Well, I mean, was a single mom with no other income. I've been self-employed basically my kid's whole life. There was no option of
Mm-hmm.
sinking. And so if for nothing else, I had to get up and dust off, and I've always been the person, like, if something's wrong, my kid was always the one I didn't want to present
Mm-hmm.
that in front, like, so I always really tried to, like, kind of, be upbeat. I never wanted to bother him with any kind of like work horse shit, because this is such an ugly
Yeah.
business anyways. And so, and he was young, and it was, that, so I had to like take that and separate it and then just deal with it later when he wasn't around, or whatever. But truth be told, it's like
Mm-hmm.
poison in your body. And when you're being poisoned constantly and consistently, it it really takes a toll. It takes a toll
Yeah.
physically, it takes a toll mentally, which eventually will take a toll financially, because you can't, if you're not on your A game, particularly doing what I
Mm-hmm.
do, if I'm not on my A game, I'm not going to be successful at
Yeah.
doing that. And I just wanted my
Yeah.
life back. I just wanted my life back. The good, the bad, and the ugly, but I wanted my life back. I wanted to stop living in fear. I wanted to stop, flinching every time the doorbell rang. I wanted to stop worrying that this person was believing this story and that person was saying something else. And I just, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
took to get that is what I was willing to do. I mean, I threw the book
Mm-hmm.
at it. If it meant learning to pray, I learned to pray. If it meant trying to meditate, I tried to do that. If, whatever it meant, I was willing to do that. And eventually, they say time heals all wounds. It may not heal all wounds, but it does put a lot of wounds back into a perspective point where you can not be the victim
Right.
anymore.
Right.
And then several years later, when you were
Yeah.
my broker, I was to be working in the same
Yes.
office with
Little did
her
I
again.
know, we brought another agent who had the same person working with her, and
Oh, Penny.
and I just, yeah, all of a sudden I brought them back together in the same building without even, without
Yes.
even realizing. But again, small town, small world. I mean, I'm sure this is true in a lot of industries, but real estate's obviously a hyper local thing, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody changes brokers, one to the next and whatever. So it's not all that surprising, but
Well, and she's a con
yeah,
artist. She's a con artist. So, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that she was going to be working with another realtor
yeah,
at some point.
sure.
You know what I mean?
And she
So,
chose
you know,
perfectly or whatever. But anyway,
well, I mean, and she was
yeah,
fired
yeah,
shortly
yeah,
thereafter anyway.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's
So true,
fine.
so true. So
But she's an opportunist, and I can't fault her for
Sorry,
that.
folks. I just dropped you on your heads.
So
So tell me the part, because I
where we
loved
go.
what you said when we were talking about this before a week or so ago about the forgiveness piece.
So again, many years had passed, and I had everything in full spectrum of how did it happen, why did it happen, what role did I play in it. I mean, I had done all the research, all of the digging. And so one of the things that I had to do for me was forgive her. And sorry, there's a very large cat walking
I was going to
past
say,
me here.
there's a lion in your house.
God, it's a shame there's literally nowhere else for her to sit. So, I had done that in my own self because I knew that I had some wrongdoing there. And, when it all went down, yes, they were wrong. They should never have stolen. But when it all went down, we both kind of just went, fuck it, every man for themselves. And instead of coming together and supporting each other, granted, she did a lot worse stuff than I did, but I still had my part in that. And so I went over to the office one day this was before we moved in, but she was already
Yeah, this was
there.
after she came
was
to
already moved
where
in.
you and I were working together. Yeah.
Right. So she was already moved in there. And I just went over and I said, listen, we're going to be working literally 4 doors away from each other. And I think we should clear the air. And I kind of just said the same thing I just told you, I said, I'm sorry for the bad behavior that I exhibited when things went south. And we both did really horrible things to each other. And I'm sorry. And I left it at that. But her being the opportunist that she is, because I think she knew her job was hitting the shitter, then would stop over and be like, hey, if you ever need any help.
Gosh.
So, forgiving does not mean forgetting.
I think that's really important. And Nilla, you've asked a super great question. So we'll get to that in 1 second. But I think that's a super important part of forgiveness. One, I think that forgiveness is really, now you said you forgave her, and I love that. But I also think that forgiveness is so much more for ourselves. Like that's what clears out that poison. And it's not about letting the other person off the hook or as if they didn't do it or even, and you obviously said you didn't do this, but in a different, scenario or for another person, even pursuing somebody, somebody stole $3,000 from me a year and a half ago. And so I took my same kind of thing. Like I saw where I allowed myself to be duped, kind of a thing, and took responsibility for that because I didn't want to be a victim. And I took the legal action I could take towards them. It didn't do me any good and I never saw the money and whatever. But that doesn't, that owning your stuff and forgiving somebody or, some event that happens doesn't mean you don't necessarily also pursue it in a way that you can pursue it. That like, they're just kind of separate things.
Well, and I think for some people, myself mostly, I'm obsessive about things. I never do anything half-assed.
This is true, folks.
And so when something is taking over your mind or your life, for me, it literally consumed my every waking moment. And which was all of the moments because I wasn't sleeping any fucking way. And I can't live like that. You can't function
sustainable.
like that.
Yeah.
So, it was honestly, it was a survival trick as well, because how are you going to survive that for too terribly long? Do something. But truly being a victim does not work for me at
Yeah.
all.
Well, it's a totally
I don't like that
disempowering
at all.
place. And so even for people who are,
It's a loss of
yeah, even
control.
for people who are, whatever, more comfortable with it, it never changes that. And this is the freedom. And I talk about this a lot, like when I teach emotional intelligence stuff, or sometimes it comes up in a coaching situation. As irritating sometimes as it can be to own your part in something, anytime, but especially if you feel like somebody's done something to you, and they have. I mean, somebody stole $3,000 from me.
Mm-hmm.
That's real. I had $3,000,
Mm-hmm. And you
and then
really
I did.
were a
Yeah,
victim.
yeah. So
Right.
that's real. But if I stay focused on what they did to me, kind of a thing, then I'm a victim, and I'll never have power, because I cannot have power when it comes to any other person or an organization. Like this happens with people with where they work, and suddenly it's the company's fault, or it's the economy's fault, or it's the government's fault, it's
Oh, yeah.
politics' fault, it's whatever. But we have no power there. And so the only way to regain any sense of power is to bring it back home to yourself, which is not the same as self-judgment and self-criticism and blame, like that's owning your shit and
Mm-hmm.
browbeating yourself are two totally different things. But in owning your shit, you really get the power to then either be free from that thing or go take action or go, just do whatever it is you need to do
Mm-hmm.
in the situation, remove yourself, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But you do it from a place of power instead of just the sort of knee jerk reaction of I'm pissed and I'm running away, or I'm pissed and I'm, beating you up now, or, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that kind of impulsive, reaction is.
Well, and two, it's very easy to go to a place of, why did this happen to me? All I do is I don't do anything to
Mm-hmm.
anybody. I get up, I go to work, I go home, I
Right.
repeat, which is all
Right.
very true. All of that is
Right.
true, but it doesn't further your cause
In any way,
anyway to
yeah,
feel
that's
that
the
way.
why
So,
question that is not empowering. Yeah, why did this happen to me? Why won't this work for me? Yeah. So
yeah.
Nilla's really super great question is, what, and I don't, this might be a little hard for you to, like, you might have to think about this a minute to sort of pick out how the process went, because this is the kind of thing we just do and we're not thinking about what we're doing. But she asked what the process of starting to trust people again looked like. Like, how did you?
I don't. I think it was more. It was less of the way I was feeling about other people, and more of a way I was feeling about
Mm,
myself. And I think I really just kind of at some point, I don't think it was like a
right.
one moment decision where I was like, fuck them, you know. But I think it was more like, you know what? If I'm gonna get any part of me back, I have to just be me.
Mm,
And so I just did that. Because the other thing too is when you are perceived as a victim by other people, that also in my mind, and now we have a puppy. Okay. And so
see how
that
loved
in
you
my
are.
mind,
Everybody loves
I
you.
do, makes me feel like a modicum of guilt there. So it's almost like an admission of something that I did. If I appeared meek or guilty in any way or victimized in
Mm-hmm.
any way, I was sort of validating that which was being rumored about
Mm,
me. And I was not having
mm-hmm.
that. And so I just the one thing I've always
Mm-hmm.
been good at is
Yes.
selling.
Yeah.
So I just did
Yeah.
that. And I did more of it than
Yeah.
anyone else. And when you do more of it than anyone else, they don't give two fucking shits if you
Right.
stole from somebody. They don't care if you stabbed your pet iguana in the heart. Like, nobody cares about all the other shit you did. That's how this business is. Even if anything that she said about me were true, which it wasn't, but even if it had been true, the one power that I had that she did not was my value to my brokerage and to my business in how I
Yeah.
perform. So I just did that.
Yeah.
And eventually nobody remembered that she
Right.
said that. And nobody remembered all of that
Because
stuff.
it's so true. People just, they get caught up in the drama of it in the moment, but it's not their life and they don't care. I mean, the bottom line is nobody
Right.
else cares enough to sustain it for, you know, indefinite periods of time. So everybody's going to
Right.
forget it. Somebody else is going to do something that'll catch their attention and, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think my trust of people is still sort of limited at
Mm-hmm.
best. And when I catch myself sort of sliding into that comfort zone again, where it's easier to trust you to do something for me than it is for me to do myself, I have some
Yes.
flags in place that I go,
Yeah.
you're not doing that again.
Yeah.
Because I would love to be able to not have to write all the frickin'
Mm-hmm.
checks and not have to review every goddamn bill that comes in. And I would love to not have to do any of that. It's a time
Mm-hmm.
suck and it's tiresome.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather crush candy.
Right.
But that's not
Right.
how it goes. And it's never going to go like that again.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's a very old story for business people to be, you know, taken advantage of or embezzled from or whatever by somebody else in their
Right.
company that has that kind of access to money. I mean, it's just that's a tale as old as time, so to speak. And I think as a business owner, you really have to not from a place of untrustworthiness. It's like we were talking about this week in my Get Everything membership community, because we were talking a lot about boundaries this week. And so having those kind of boundaries also actually keeps that bookkeeper or whoever it is, whatever their role is that, you know, has access to your money. It keeps them safe by saying, okay, so I'm always going to sign the checks. Or like when I owned my own real estate company,
Mm-hmm.
I had one person writing all the checks. I signed them, but I'll be honest, you know, it's not like I was really scrutinizing them when I signed them, but I
Right. No,
the
I get that.
checkbook. So she was writing checks, but ultimately, you know, every month I'm balancing the checkbook. So I have to make sure it balances. That gives my eye another
Right.
look besides the P&L, you know, so then I have the P&L that's telling me what all our expenses are. And I'm actually balancing the checkbook. So it was just she knew she didn't have to worry about being accused of anything, right? Because we had that check and balance between us. It was just a good balance that kept, you know, me engaged instead of, you know, deflecting off my financial responsibilities to somebody else. And
right. Because they're a drag.
Yeah. And it wasn't, you know, balancing the checkbook was not my most fun activity every month. But
I pay accountants for that.
Well, yes.
Plus, I can't add or subtract. I'm terrible with math. So, but I think that, you know, what I had tried to avoid for all those years was paying an accountant to keep my QuickBooks up and blah, blah, blah. You know, like who the hell wants to pay that monthly invoice?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
Yes, you do.
You know?
There's that. There's that lesson too. Well, I'll tell you what I think. Oh, sorry. My phone is so precariously propped all the time. I think that owning a business to me is the same as having a partner, whether you're married or not, but somebody you're living with, from the standpoint of it just throws all your shit in your face. Like there's no hiding, you know, there's no hiding, because your business will throw every insecurity you have, every weakness you have. You know, it throws the good stuff too, but those fly by faster, it seems like, you know, and you have to face that, which is why I do so much mindset coaching with entrepreneurs, because the biggest thing that blocks an entrepreneur is whatever's going on in their head about they can't do it, or it's not going to work for them, or they don't know enough, they're not experienced enough. I mean, it's the, and this will go, I'll lead into our question now that we had emailed to us, which I think I understand what she means by the way she wrote it, but it was, let me get the person's name who submitted it. Was it Leela? Yeah, Leela. And she asked about, having a business and feeling intimidated. And so I think that is, being an entrepreneur is, you could use that word, intimidating. I mean, you're on your own. The buck stops with you, and
I mean, I would use the word aggravation more than I would.
There's that. There's that.
But I mean,
yeah. But what did you think? But
wait a minute.
It's
funny that you use.
Okay, so intimidation might not be the word you would use, but when you left my brokerage, it wasn't my brokerage where I worked, and opened your own company.
Where you were in charge.
And opened your own company. I mean, there must have been a bit of the sort of the negative way it would come out is sort of, who do I think I am to go step into this role, to be this kind of leader,
oh my God, yes.
So say something about that.
Of course. They're going to know.
They're going to know.
They're going to know that I don't belong here. Well, and now when I go to the Arbor owners meetings, it's just funny because they're all afraid of me. But, truth be, or they're afraid of what I'm going to say because there's so much hypocrisy and I'm the only person there going, really? Did you hear what he just fucking said? I'm the only person there saying that. But I think, I don't know that I ever think of myself as an entrepreneur. I mean, I guess, yes,
you are.
Is, in fact, what I am. But in my head, I'm like, well, I'm a realtor and I like to eat, there's all these other things that I would classify myself as before I would say entrepreneur. Truth be told, it to me is just like breathing. Not the whole opening my own office thing. That part I got drug into, kicking and screaming, but just the being in charge part of my own stuff. I've been a realtor for going on 19 years now. Even before that, since the dawn of time, I can't remember a time in my life, and I mean from kindergarten and beyond that, where I didn't know in my heart of hearts that no matter what I grow up to be someday, I'm going to be the boss.
Okay.
Whatever that means, whatever that entails, I don't know what that is. I just know that I have to be the boss. There was no other. And I think in my head, it might have meant, from a very young age, well, I'll be a teacher. Right? Because
that's
teachers are the boss of that.
Yeah.
When you're that age, they are the boss, even though we know better than that now. But, and then as I got older and I worked in retail, I wanted to be the manager of, whatever store I worked in or whatever. That was the bar was there because that's where I was in my life. And then, I worked a lot of different jobs, and then I ended up working at a bank and in the back office, and I had a fairly not high, I mean, I definitely wasn't high paid, but I had a supervisory sort of role, which they didn't really pay me for, but I was doing the job, and I hated it. I hate somebody telling me when to go to lunch. I'll go to lunch when I'm hungry, which is all the time, by the way. It just didn't suit me. It didn't suit me to have a boss standing at my desk at some point going, I noticed you came in at 8:03. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
And I knew you were going to get your 40 hours out of me, but I can't be micromanaged. To this day, I can't be micromanaged. So what everyone else calls entrepreneur to me is my DNA. It's my absolute fabric. And I don't know, this whole office thing, although again, I really didn't, this was not in my plan necessarily, but it does now feel like a natural progression.
Yes.
Do
you think, so because you sort of alluded to this just a couple minutes ago, and sort of that, are they gonna notice? Are they gonna catch me, doing this? I think that it's really important for people to realize there's so much, especially for women, about, like the imposter syndrome and all this kind of stuff. And
Oh yeah.
I think it's real. I don't mean stuff as if it's not real, but I think that the main difference between people who are stopped by it or limit themselves because of it and those who are not is not whether or not you feel like you're an imposter. It's what you do about it. Do you go show up anyway, right? Or do you not show up because you feel like an imposter? Because
you fake it till you
I
make
had
it.
imposter syndrome long before I understood what that was. And the first office I managed, the whole 2 years I was there, it was like, it was exactly that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm playing dress up.
I remember I asked
every day.
I asked you one time, at what point in your career did you finally understand, like, oh, right,
yeah,
I know
like
what I'm doing.
I'm good at
like,
this.
I do actually belong here.
And it was a long time. I had been managing for a long time before I really gave myself permission, I'll say, because I think that's a lot of times what it is giving ourselves permission to, sorry. Oh, it was so profound. I threw my phone across the room. Permission to own what we're really good at. Because there's this thing about, ooh, that's arrogant, or that's prideful, or you're, being too big for your britches, or whatever all those messages we got as kids, or, from church or whatever. And it's especially true for women. I think men, boys are raised in an environment, typically in an environment that's much more embracing of, applauding their brilliance, so to speak, where girls and women are, kind of conditioned to tone it down a bit, right? So I think it's a little bit.
And we're also conditioned to believe that we're not leaders.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's very different. I know that even in the time I've been in the business, it's come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. Inevitably, now, my business partner is a male, Frank. Every business meeting we walk into, everybody shakes his hand and they go to hug me. Fuck are you hugging me for?
Oh, interesting.
I don't need you to hug me. I don't need your hug.
Yeah.
We're not here to hug. Now, depending on who it is. Now, if it's somebody I am, genuinely close with or whatever, I don't mind that. But I'm talking about business meetings where I don't even know you. Do not try to hug me.
Yes.
Sit the fuck down. Don't try to hug me. Stop it.
And, this is in real estate. Real estate has had super successful women in it from day one. So a lot of industries are way more gender biased than real estate is. But but the interesting thing to me, because I've been in real estate leadership for so many years, is that when you so there's a lot of women agents who are selling real estate and very, very successful. Many offices, the top producers are women, But when you get, and I'm sure you notice the same thing, when you move up to that management owner level and you're going to those association board meetings and you get in that room, then it's very much a white straight man gig again.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And they all know better, and they can all do better. And they've read all the books.
Exactly.
They've read all of the books. And I have read none of the books, as I'm sure you well know. But what I have done is sold a shitload of real estate. Yeah. So if there's a scenario that I haven't run across, that's a super rare thing. And also by the nature of the type of real estate I do, I run in all kinds of stupid shit that you never even hear of. Like, you don't even know it's a thing. So my level of expertise comes from actually working in it.
Not reading about it.
And understanding that there's a lot of logic that has to be put into every transaction and into this business. And a lot of things can be resolved that way. So I may not always have the answer when an agent comes to ask me, but I can apply some logic to it and give you, like, sort of come up with an
Mm-hmm.
answer at some
Mm-hmm.
point. So it's very frustrating to
Mm-hmm.
me when I give an opinion on something and I'm met with, you know, the
Yeah.
testosterone wall of, well, studies show, fuck your studies.
Right.
Like, it's not what we're even
Right.
talking about here. So, I mean, but honestly, I have to like sit still and look pretty sometimes because I get so like
Sit still,
mad.
look
I get
pretty. Yeah.
angry. And then
Yeah.
I just,
You do. You
yeah,
do.
I just,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
And by the way, hi,
it's the art
Teresa.
of
I'm
shut the
glad you
fuck up.
joined us. She was running late tonight, but always good to have you here. She is a very faithful participant in Cocktails and Coaching. Uh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So
cool.
it's always fun to see a lot of the same people and always fun to have new folks. But so as we get, head towards our hour here and need to wrap this up, I would love to know, as an entrepreneur, what do you think? Like, forget anything, it doesn't have to be about anything we've even talked about tonight. What do you think your, what was the hardest thing for you to learn that you feel like, you've kind of gotten now?
Well, I think that learning to ride the
Mm,
ride is probably a big part of it because it's like the universe, you're up here and then out of nowhere the universe just smacks you back into reality. People say a lot of things but do very, very
mm,
little. And that is a thing that I was not prepared
mm.
for because I'm a woman of my word. When I say I'm going to do
Right.
something, I do it.
Yeah.
End of story. Like, that's, even if I don't, by the time the thing comes, even if I don't want to do it, I
Yeah.
still do it because that is who I am. So I just was not really prepared for all the words and none of the
Yeah.
action. Uh, so I mean, it's a learning, eye-opening, every day. It's an eye-opening
Mm-hmm.
experience, and also you can't do
Mm-hmm.
everything. You can't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Those are
So
both.
that
Yeah. Those
transition.
those are great. Yeah. And what are you most grateful for about the whole journey at this point?
I have to say, my gratitude genuinely lies in the support
Mm.
of my friends and family for sure, but also the people that work with us
Mm-hmm.
every day, the agents, their loyalty and their genuine gratitude when they are grateful for things that we've done for them, or that feels
Mm-hmm.
good. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. But I have to say, like, so many people I feel like are rooting for us, for me, and I just didn't. I really just was like, oh, we're just gonna open this little office here, and now it's like we have 1,000 followers on our
Yeah.
page. Like, it's a
Yeah.
big deal, and it's gonna be a bigger deal yet. And I can't wait to watch it
Yeah.
happen. I can't wait. That to me is
Right.
exciting. But I'm truly grateful. Every like, every add a
Mm-hmm.
girl, every share, every little inch of
Mm-hmm.
support is truly, uh, it makes me very
Mm-hmm.
grateful, and it proves people are watching.
Yes.
They
Yes.
are watching.
Yes. Yeah. People really do in that regard. We may not get their attention for long, long periods of uninterrupted time or whatever, but people are paying attention
Right.
and they do care
Mm-hmm.
about who we are and how we're being in the world. And they'll leave,
Mm-hmm.
they vote with their feet and their fingers and their clicks, right? And because they'll just leave. It's too easy to be distracted by something else. So they don't need to pay attention to anything you're
Right.
posting or anything you're saying, anything. And so when they do, like, I think one of the most thrilling things to me is when, I send out these emails once or twice a week to, hundreds of people. And when I get a reply, like that just makes
Hmm.
that somebody took the time to not just open it, right? So first they had to open the email, and we all have too many emails in our inbox,
Right.
And then they had to read it at least enough to be able to say something to me about it. And then they hit reply and
Right.
actually said something that it inspired them, that they really relate, whatever it is they say. And like that makes my whole day, because so much of the time we put things out hoping, someone, is, for me, maybe inspired by it. In your case, it's often very tangible with properties and things about real estate and things that are very,
Hmm.
and to know that somebody saw that and that helped them is like the most amazing thing ever.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And also, I think too, I do enjoy uh,
Yeah. You're
volunteering
a
and other
super,
altruistic things,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Jen is very involved in a couple of big projects in the Reading area, and helping them with um, fundraising, cooking breakfast. Are you still cooking breakfast? Yeah.
every first Thursday of every month. But so when you have all these people now, like watching and hearing and listening, it brings it brings a light to
Yeah.
that. So we've been able, now I've been able to get other cooking groups in to do meals at Opportunity
Okay.
House, and other donations and things. So that part of it is super
Yeah.
cool because it's a much further reach than just my
Yeah.
living room. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So that it's a very cool thing to
Yes.
see
Yes.
happening.
So what's the legacy you want to leave? Last question. What's the legacy you want to leave? 50, 100 years from now when you're gone.
I want to leave an impression on as many people as possible that being a good human is not a negative thing. And it helps if you
Right.
swear a little
Fuck yeah.
and you're a little funny. Yeah. It's a good thing when everybody gets to eat. And I genuinely feel that way, and I've always
Hmm.
felt that way. But I like now being in a position where I can put more of that into action versus just feeling
Yeah.
that way.
Beautiful.
So, we don't always hit the mark. I'm still an angry asshole most of the time. But,
That's debatable. But hey, we all bring our stuff. We all bring our stuff. I'm, no more ideal or perfect than anybody else. So we all have our days and our edges. So I think that's part of what we're here for. It's part of what we're here for.
agreed.
All right, my
Agreed.
dear. Well, I love you. Thank you for sharing this time with me and
I
with
love you
everybody
back.
else.
Thank you so
And
much
if
for
anybody
having me.
watches the replay or after our conversation, if you have questions, just put them in the comments. I always monitor it. If it's for Jen, she'll answer you, and then we'll upload this. I'll upload this tomorrow to YouTube, and then give you the link for that too, Jen, so you can share it as well. All right,
Okay,
love you,
thank
dear.
you. Thanks,
Mwah.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.